Motherhood. 1 minute, you're mom of the year.
I love you, Mommy.
Then the next, not so much. From bath time to bullying, from potty training to puberty, parenting is full of challenges. But one thing is for certain, you are not alone. Welcome to Modern Mom Probs. I'm your host, author, mother, parenting expert, Tara Clark. Join me while we tackle today's modern mom problems. Monica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you. You just radiate joy and happiness, and I absolutely love your energy. So I know that we're going to have fun here today.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy I give that off. Let's go with the energy, okay?
Yeah. Oh, no, very much. And it's not just like the beautiful stuff that you have behind you, including your, I see those. Don't think I don't see those, including those incredible YouTube plaques. Congratulations on both of them. That's amazing.
You. Thank you. Yes, I feel like you put the work in. You have to display it. Okay, look, it's a lot of work.
100%. So that's what I want to ask you about. So you've built an incredibly fun and engaging space on YouTube for kids. And so my question to you is, what inspired you? Did you just think like, hey, I'm going to dive in and talk about literacy, or did it happen organically? What was the process?
Well, honestly, in 2009 really is when my YouTube journey started, and I was just creating videos that were like resources for families, things they could do with their kids at home. And then, of course, as the years went on, just dibbling, dabbling, trying different things. But in 2020, of course, when the world changed and the pandemic hit, I decided to bring my classroom onto YouTube and teach from YouTube, like teach on YouTube. And so that's really where that started. And Circle Time with Miss Monica was birthed. And it's gone a life of its own from there. But being able to create this show and, as a teacher, from a teacher's perspective, I'm always going to focus on education and really integrate learning into the show and into the fun and all of that. So that's really how it started.
I love that. I love that. So you were a teacher for what, like 20 years? Not that I'm trying to age us, but for 20 years or so.
When I say it, I'm like, what are you talking about?
You're like, I know you're not talking about me like that.
What is going on? It's been over 21 years now. Of course, back then, a few years ago, I had already been a teacher for, 17, 18 years when the show was really birthed. And I just brought that experience. I've taught in New York City. That's where my career was based. And I just brought my New York City teaching experience into the classroom onto YouTube. And so, yes, real teacher.
Yeah, like you weren't just like someone that was like, you know what, I'm bored. We're in lockdown. Let me just set up a camera and start. Like you actually had experience behind you, curriculum behind you. So I guess my question is like, how does that experience inform your videos? Where do you come up with the ideas to sing the certain songs or to do it the way that you do it, the magical way that you do it?
Well, believe it or not, when I started, I honestly, during the pandemic, speaking of that specifically, when I started the show, I really was taking everything I was doing in the classroom, what we left off when de Blasio at the time was the mayor of New York, when he closed schools and said, we're not sure, it's indefinite when you're coming back. I literally took my lesson plan for the next week. And that is what I taught. So I was really teaching from the lesson plan. And I was a preschool special education teacher. And so that's what I was teaching from. And so I used that as the show, of course, has developed into something a little different, and it's more show-like now. I still do lesson plans. I still, in a slightly different way, though, more outline, but it's still, what is the focus? What am I teaching? What are the skills that the children need to get out of this? So it is still very much so strategic, and it's formulated just like a regular teacher's lesson plan, maybe not as detailed, but that's where I always start. It's hard not to do it. It's just hard to get that out of my system. So
yeah, I was going to say, you've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
No, that totally makes sense. I bet parents were so grateful when schools shut down, the kids are home, they're running crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, my kids, like I could tell you for a fact, my son was was in the later half of first grade. It was like second half of like, you know what I'm saying? Like the end of first grade, I should say the end of first grade when everything shut down. And I have other friends whose kids were in kindergarten. They were in pre-K. They were in those early years of learning when they all of a sudden were not in classrooms anymore. Right. So I'm sure the feedback that you received was like, thank you. Thank you for this.
That sounds just about right. It was definitely the thank yous and, oh my goodness, this is perfect. This is great. I think the thing that made the most, for me, that made the most sense, but what was so, important for kids was the consistency. They needed the consistency, especially just like you said, some of your friends, their children were in kindergarten, preschool, and even first grade with your son. Mm-hmm. Those young ages, they need that consistency. They rely on that. That helps them. And so to have your routines disrupted, that's a big deal. And, that brings up all kinds of emotions. Everyone's out of sorts. And so I think the consistency of it was really important for the children and for the parents too, because they can count on it. So I always would put up a video, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday because just like you said, it was towards the end of the school year. This was March, towards the end of March. So through June, I kept showing up Monday through Friday. And just 8 a.m., you see a video. So they knew they can do something and count on something. And yes, that was really important. Yeah,
that was so good. It was so important that they have that consistency. I know that my mother said to me, like during this and even after the pandemic, she was like, Tara, I don't know how the parents did it. She said, I would never have been able to do this if she were a parent at this age, you know, like when this happened. She's like, I wouldn't be able to do it. My mom is not computer literate. She doesn't even have a smartphone. She doesn't have access to the internet. And people are like, given what I do for a living, they're like, what are you talking about? Yes. But no, it's a choice. Like, that's just what it is. Like, she's straight up 1995, and I respect her because she said, yeah, no, I do. And so she says, she's like, I don't know how these people were getting their kids online in the online classrooms and the Zoom and all of that kind of stuff. And my mom is not the only one out there that would have been having a hard time. Like, many people didn't have access to the internet. They didn't have access to computers. They didn't have access to things that other people may take for granted, right? And that's when the literacy rates drop. That's when the children are behind, and then they're coming back to school a couple of years later, but they're still coming from a place from behind. So my question for you here is like, what do literacy rates look like now that we're back to normal?
I don't even want to say that there's so much back to normal. When it comes to like early childhood and the 0 to about 4 years of age, we're seeing that parents are reading less to children at home. There was a stat that came across my desk the other day, and it said less than half of parents in the U.S., or I should say less than half of the children in the U.S. are being read to daily. And in the early years, we know just reading aloud to your child, even if it's not on a daily basis, but 2 to 3 times a week or 3 to 4 times a week, that is setting them up for success in school. They are really strengthening their vocabulary, their learning, and it's important. It's such an important skill and something that you can easily do at home. So I think we're still struggling. We're not back to normal by any means, but we are still working towards getting back to where we were, pre-pandemic. And we were already in challenging situations pre-pandemic. So now you're seeing even more of a decline. And we're also battling something else. And, that's parallel to the stats that I don't know. I feel that people are just starting to talk about now, but we're also looking at parenting with Gen Z and even some millennials as well, millennial parents. It's things have changed. Their children are growing up with the tablets, with phones, or even just in that environment where technology is used on a daily basis. And so libraries, or going to the library, or books, and not to say they're not buying books for their children. I'm sure they are. It's just a different way of parenting. It's a different way of teaching. And we have to acknowledge that. So we are also combating with that as well, that things have just changed. Things are changing. We have to approach reading in different ways and getting the importance of literacy, across to families and teachers, educators. We have to get that across in new ways. And how can we be creative to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that same headline that you mentioned about the kids having read to less.
Yeah.
And part of that, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been that same article or maybe a similar article, is that the parents' reading levels and literacy rates were not as high as previous generations. Did you see that?
I think it might be the same article. I did see that. And they were talking also about why I guess some of the parents' reading rates were a little bit lower. But it goes back to even pre-pandemic, we were already in a challenging situation with literacy rates dropping in the US. So we were already trying to get students back to grade level. And then the pandemic hit. And it's almost like not a wipeout, but it's like a strong wave that really down. And so it's important to keep having these conversations and then also getting the perspective of the parents. Well, what do you feel? What is happening? How can we integrate this into your child's life and into your life? What works for you? Why don't you want to read? And some parents said, I don't like it. I just don't like reading. So why would I read to my kid? And you have to respect it. You're like, okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, because they have a long day. They're working all day long. They're coming home. They're doing that nighttime routine where it's dinner time, bath time. Now, bedtime, you're exhausted. Many times, they're just like, I just can't. I just don't have it in me.
It's true. And I have to respect that. And so I believe getting creative and saying, well, what could work? What can we do? Even if and it doesn't have to be you don't have to read to your child for an hour a day. You don't. And I'm always going to refer to younger children on the, that 0 to 4 age, but you don't have to read every single day. It can literally be 10 minutes. It can even be 5 minutes, and that can make a difference. It can help with calming children down. It can help with even attention spans, and it could also help to start to foster a routine. So yeah, it doesn't have to be like what I think some may think, oh, I have to put in so much extra work after I come home, and I'm so tired. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think even being surrounded by books, or not even surrounded, forget about surrounded, even having books in the household is helpful.
Yeah. Yes.
And there was a time, I was actually telling someone this the other day, that I was going to the dollar store and I was buying the most amazing readers for $1. I don't know if it was Dollar Tree or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I was getting so many books because someone said how did you acquire so many books for your son? And I was like, would you believe it was the dollar store? I was just getting reader after kids book, all of them. And then after a while, it really added up. And as opposed to getting a Hot Wheels car or some other random crap that he would play with for 2 minutes and throw away, I was making it a point to be I'm going to get these books at that store. And not even that, forget about the dollar store, but we were huge proponents of the library. The library is free. Get your library card. They want you to come in and use these books. They want you to come in and sit down for toddler time. And we did toddler time when my son was a baby. We lived right across the street from the 96th Street New York Library.
That's a good one.
It was so good. We were there almost every day. When we had a day where I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to walk around the park or whatever. We were at the library and you could meet other parents.
Yes.
Kids have the opportunity to be surrounded by books. Like I said, they're having the opportunity to see, to look, to play, to hold the book right, not hold it upside down, hold it backwards or anything like that. It's giving them the opportunity to appreciate literacy in books without even being able to read themselves.
Yes, you said some key points there. Being surrounded by books, and whether it's the library or whether it's in your home, and even just like you said, you can books from the dollar store. Libraries often have sale racks where they are, bringing in new books, and they have to get rid of some books and they will sell them for a very, very low rate. I mean, affordable if that's what you want. If you want to add to your collection, you can always ask your local library, oh, are you selling any books? What do you have? And that's also another option if you're trying to create this environment in your home. And it's really a print rich environment. And that's important because children are seeing letters and words. And then when you start to read the titles of the books, and even when you start pointing to the title while you're reading it, you don't even realize they're making a connection. Their brain is making a connection that, whoa, oh, these letters mean something. Oh, these letters have sounds, they connect. Oh, it's a word. It means something, right? There's this connection happening. Even with us, we don't even have to say anything. It's just happening. We don't have to do anything except just read the title of a book, point to the title of something, article in the newspaper or a magazine, or children are just watching and observing you and your everyday reading different things. I mean, that's a print rich environment, which we often in the preschool world and kindergarten teachers too, we often talk about creating print rich environments in our classrooms because you want children to be surrounded by the letters and the words and start to make sense of it and make these connections. So very important.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. When my son was little, we walked a ton, and I put him in the stroller and we would just walk, and I would always read the signs to him, the street signs, this sign, that sign, like, Dunkin' Donuts, like all the different things. Like
Dunkin' earlier. Sorry.
I got my Dunkin' right here. They should pay me money for talking about this, but
oh my goodness.
No, but that was the thing. Like, we would look at everything. I would read him. This is totally a true story. You're going to laugh about this, but this is true. When he was a baby, he knew the logos of cars before he knew the alphabet. Because we would walk down the street and I would be like, that's a BMW, that's a Ford, that's a Jeep, that's a that. And then he memorized all the things. And so that was like his party trick for a while. It blew my uncle's mind. My uncle's like, how does this kid know a Porsche logo? I was like, I don't know. We're just walking down the street. And I'm like, this. But their brains are sponges. Yes. So whether you're teaching them what a Hyundai logo looks like versus the letter, A, B, C, whatever, like they want to learn. Their brains want to learn. So point it out, talk to them, keep talking to them, show them the Dunkin' Donuts logo, show them the Third Avenue logo, street sign, whatever it is, show them everything, and I remember when my son first started to read, I felt so proud because you could like see the inner workings of his brain clicking, like click, click, click. You're like, oh my God, it's working. He's really doing it. He's really doing it.
That is so fun. That just observing children grow and watching their progress in real time is amazing. I believe that is one of the best. It's just joyful. It's like so joyful. That is one of the best things about being a teacher. And being able to, right now I teach privately, being able to teach privately and really have a connection with the children and the parents and really be a part of that learning and watching the progress, that there is nothing like it. And it's just like what you said, you see the brain working, you see it making connections, and then you hear it and you watch them and you see what they've learned and it fascinates you. Just like your son knowing all the logos of the cars, it's fascinating. I think being a New York City teacher, one of the things that is so beautiful about working in the city, and this is across the boroughs, honestly, is being able to take those neighborhood walks. And you can do neighborhood walks anywhere, but there's nothing like a New York City neighborhood walk, especially in Manhattan. The children see so much from the street, not only the street signs, and we have some signs, but also just the stores, the stores. There's so many different kinds of stores. There's whether restaurants, just foods, bodegas, delis, then we have libraries, museums. There's so much to see. And on those neighborhood walks, we always took children out for walks, it didn't matter what school I worked in, which borough, we always went on neighborhood walks. But you get to see what interests the children. And you would have the children who called out the colors of the cars, right? Yellow, red. That was fun. That was always fun. Just calling out the colors of the cars. Simple, But again, the brain just making these connections while we're walking. Or you have the children who like calling out letters. Oh, there's a B. Oh, there's uppercase B. There's lowercase b. They're just making these connections again. And all of this is happening just on the neighborhood walk. And then you have the children who give it to you real. And maybe you have a gentleman walk by with a big belly, like a big round belly, and they're like, oh, his belly's big. His belly's small. Like, oh, it never fails. It never fails.
The kids are so honest.
But they're learning.
They are learning. That's absolutely true. Then they're learning adjectives, right?
Oh,
big, small,
yes.
tall,
yes.
short, all that
yes.
kind of stuff. Did they used to go out with the rainbow rope when my son was little? They would have the rope that they would hold on to with their little hands, and they would all walk in a line. We always called it the rainbow rope because you can't lose a kid.
That's cute, the rainbow. I like that one. Okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
They're all holding on like, everyone's walking along.
That was my favorite. Oh man, I used to love that. When he was really little in pre-K, in nursery school, they used to do that. Makes me so happy. Yeah, no, I do. I love that. You know what? You should bring a rainbow rope onto a video in the future. Get all the kids.
That's a good one.
That actually could be a video all by itself because you could do the green screen with the city, and then you could be pointing out the things that they see in the city.
That is so true. Okay, being from the city, have you ever seen the big red buggies? There are a lot of young, preschools or just schools with younger children. They put the kids in that buggy. It's like that big red buggy. They push them.
Oh, yes. I have pictures of my son in that buggy, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And he would just be just chilling with his little friends in this big buggy.
Strap them in, and they're just like, hi to everybody.
Yes.
And meanwhile, the teachers are trying to turn the buggy.
I know. I give them so much credit. They must have such strong arms and back muscles because those things were heavy. I 100% have my son pictures of my son in those. So yes, I very much know what you're talking about. Oh, they were so cute. Yeah, and he's about to turn 13 now, so it was a very long time ago, or it feels like a very long time ago.
Oh, 13. That's a good age. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you know what? He's such a reader now. Well, let me full story here. He was always such a reader. And then in the last year, I noticed that he's not as interested as he used to be. And I'm like, come on, buddy, finish it. He would sit down and read a 300-page book in about 2 or 3 days. I mean, he was voracious. And his reading speed was faster than mine. I know sometimes he and I would sit down and read together. That's one of my favorite things. We sit down on the couch and read together. He would read 3 pages to every 1 page I was reading. Wow. Such a fast reader. And then in the last year or so, he's kind of slowed down with the interest. And even this summer, he had 1 book to read, and I was like, come on, finish this. And he even still now has 20 pages. I'm like, dude, you got to finish your reading. And so it's hard to pull the kids away from the dopamine hit of the video games and the phones and the TV and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm not sure what we were doing, a couple of years ago that really fed into his love of reading. And he still enjoys reading, don't get me wrong, but it's just not nearly to the point where it had been. So I'm trying to bring him back, into it. So what advice would you give to parents to create a love of reading, to foster that love of reading that will stick with them throughout their lives?
Of course, I think modeling is, of course, one of the number one things you can do. Modeling that reading is fun or it can be enjoyable, and you showing them that you're reading anything from magazines to, which I know are almost obsolete in a way, but anything from books to newspaper articles, magazines, whatever your choice of reading is, but just showing them, that's number one. And then you mentioned one of your favorite things is reading with your son. And I think creating that bond when you read together can be you can have such a strong connection and build that over the years. And it can be something special that you do even into their teen years. I think that is definitely something that can help foster a love for reading and really build on that love of reading over time. So I think just reading together is such a great time to connect with one another, whether it's parent and child or grandparent and child or caregiver and child. it's such a special time. It really is. And for parents who are just starting to integrate reading into your child's life, I say, you start slow. You really do. You start with one book and you start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And, you decide when you want to do it. What's the best time, whether it's bedtime or, afternoon time, whatever works. But you start slow, but really focus on the connection. Because I think sometimes children just love hearing your voice and it can be calming. Your voice can be their safe space. It can be calming. It can be what they connect to. And so I think that can be very special. When I was younger, I loved story time, and my parents were very busy. They both worked. I was a latchkey kid. So
same.
I didn't, I didn't have, it wasn't like a story time that we had every single evening, but I do remember I want to say like maybe fifth, sixth grade, that's something my mother, she would really be intentional and try to, spend time asking me, getting me chapter books. We made it a big deal. We would go get chapter books, and then she would try to read at least one chapter with me a week. She tried. She couldn't do 3 or 4 times a week, but she would try to do at least once a week. And I was just so excited that she cared about what was happening in my little chapter book, what was happening to my favorite character. I may have even started a little earlier, maybe 3rd grade, because I was a huge Ramona the Pest fan.
Oh, yes.
Really loved, and I had all of the books.
Yes.
And when my mother would take that time to just read with me or let me read to her what was happening in the book, it was so special to me. I was just like, she cares, because I thought Ramona was the best thing, right? So I'm like, the fact that she wanted me to tell her what was happening, there was a connection made there. Yeah. And like I said, she was always busy, and I was the baby of 4 kids. So she was always busy, but she tried to be intentional about that,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. My mom was the same way, Monica. So my parents were divorced when I was 2, and I lived with my mom, and my mom just worked all the time, like was in the restaurant business, like crazy hours. And I can remember from a very, very early age, the one thing that she always made an effort to do was to sit with me on nights when she was home and not working. She would sit with me and read to me.
Yep.
And that was something that was really important to her. And same thing with like buying books. She bought me like the whole set of like the Dr. Seuss books, and she bought me like an encyclopedia. And I remember like that was a real stretch for her financially, because like she told me that she was like, these are really expensive. You got to take really good care of these. And I did. And they're still at her house now, because back in the day, encyclopedias were really important. But she made it a point to try to sit with me and read the best that she could. And I remember once I was able to read, that's when we stopped doing it, because then I got impatient with her, and I was like, okay, Mom, like you read too slow for me. So like, I'm just going to read these by myself now. And that's what I did. But I remember, and I'll always hold those memories so fondly in my heart, because she really made the effort to sit down and to read and give me that love of reading. And I remember when I became a mom, I wanted to recreate that with my son, and I did. And that's something that no one could ever take away from you, wow. is taking that time and creating those memories. And I bet if I asked her about it now, she would still say like, yeah, that was really important to me to sit with you and to read and to carve out that time. And she had a long day, and she read to the best of her ability the way that she did. And I'm so grateful for that. And there's a lot to be said about that and about the work that she did with that. But reading it's so important. And I understand that people have a long day, and sometimes you just feel like, I just can't. But let me tell you, if she could do it, anybody could do it.
Right. And I agree with you. Same with my mother. If she can do it, anyone can do it. And again, it goes back to, it could just be the smallest amount of time. But if you just listen to your story and then my story about our mothers, being intentional about that, and even though it wasn't a lot of time, these are the things that we remember. Those are the moments. And sometimes I tell parents that the connection, the bond that you create when you're just reading with your child, or reading aloud for the younger years, reading aloud to them, that's what your child remembers. It's the connection. It's the bond. Again, it's remembering, oh, wow, we read this story. I remember that. I can hear you reading to me, or just feeling safe with your parent. Those are the things that make the difference. And I think you can see it just from just hearing our stories, that is what you connect to, and that is what you remember later on. And it goes for children. They remember, they know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so important, so important.
1,000%. So
Mm-hmm.
this other thing that my son's teacher, I forgot what year it was. Second grade now, third grade. I don't even remember now. It's all a blur, but they do this thing at school called DEAR, which is drop everything and read.
Oh, I like
And
it.
I know this is right up your alley. So what the
I
teachers
love
would
it.
do, they sort of just say, okay, everybody, DEAR. And so you drop everything, what you're doing, and you curl up with a book. And this could be for, the youngest children all the way up to, fifth, sixth grade and beyond, where you find a cozy corner or a nook. And if maybe you have a blanket, maybe you don't, and you just curl up with a book and read for 10 or 15 minutes. And
Mhm.
once I learned that that was something that they were doing at school, I was like, ooh, we could do that at home.
Yes.
And so we've also instituted DEAR. Now, truth be told, I'm not as good about doing it as I can be or as I have been in the past, but it's a really good trick to take the whole pressure down and like the whole energy level down sometimes in the house, that if
Mhm.
you have a lot going on and everyone's like all keyed up and
Right.
stuff like that, you call out DEAR and everyone knows what to do, and it just like takes the whole level down, just brings it
It
all
does.
down a little
Oh my
bit.
goodness, it does. It really does. You sharing that story about deer, which I love. Okay, so shout out to your son's teacher because that is genius. But it reminds me of being in the preschool classroom where everything was so routinized. We had routines for everything, like throughout the day. But in one of my classrooms, we would always, before nap time, we would have book time, and we called it book time. It wasn't as cute as the deer, but we just book time. But the great thing about this book time was the children got to get up from their table after they cleaned up. And when they threw their lunch away, they were able to go to the library, pick a book, and then come back to their seat. But it was such a great time for them to be independent because they were learning how to clean up their lunch, throw everything away, and then that was their treat, right? That was, after you finish this, you get this. And the book was the treat. It was the reward after you cleaned up and finished your lunch. And so they'd get their book and they would come back to the table. And then by the time the whole class was finished, you had all these little 3 and 4-year-olds just sitting at the table looking at books. Now we know they're not reading the books, right? Maybe some of them know some words, but it's all the visuals, not the visuals. It's them picking up the book, even knowing which way to pick up the book, how to hold the book, the fact that they know to look from left to right, read from left to right, flip the pages. They're just learning so many skills in that moment. And it's also quieting down and calming the environment and bringing us down and preparing us for nap time in this instance. But so you sharing that reminded me of book time in the preschool classroom. Such a great
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
It's such a nice time because sometimes you just have to take the whole level of everything
Yes.
down a
Yes.
little bit. It gets a little chaotic. You got to take it down.
It's so true. And look, all of this is happening because of books. Like this is all centered around books and
Yeah.
literacy. And so yes, can be very important factor.
No, it is so important. Like, where do you think, so you're really at like the intersection of education and technology, right? With your background in
Great.
education and YouTube technology, you are at the forefront of that. Where do you see literacy education heading in the next few years? Like, where are you hoping that it's going in the future?
Whew. I mean, I'm hoping that and I'm starting to see it now. You do see some digital libraries or digital book companies online, and I use some of them. And so you can read online, you can incorporate this into your child's world. But I'm hoping somehow that we can still not only have the digital books, but we can also have an appreciation for physical books too, and somehow have some type of integration. That is what I would love to see in the future. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Maybe it's we have a physical book and children can use a mobile phone to help with reading or to help, AI can say, sound out some words for them, or it can just, just by looking at the book they're reading. I'm hoping that we can infuse the technology into real reading, into real physical copies, and not, really make them obsolete, which I don't think that's happening, but I want to see more children using real physical copies and, getting an appreciation for that. I also would love to see more books and things integrated into shows like mine. I'm trying to integrate and do more literacy and more storytelling. And even if it's not so much an actual book that I'm integrating, but stories, right? I started dibbling dabbling with that last season. And so we're going to do more of that this season, where it's storytelling, infusing that into the learning. So children are starting to understand the concept of storytelling. And then for the children that watch my show, they're listening to the story and they can start to comprehend and have an understanding of what's even going on, what is happening in the story, and, foster that love of from the show and being able to hear stories within the show. So I'm hoping to really see more of a connection of real books, literacy, storytelling infused into the technology.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I know earlier you mentioned that you have private students that you teach and that you educate. Does it blow their mind that they have a YouTube star teaching them? Like that, like, no, seriously. No, I'm serious.
So usually what happens is, because we do small groups. So I always have maybe 4 or 5 students, right? And so the first week of school or class, it's not really school, but it's class, is just that. But I just watched you on the TV. Do you know I watched you? I was just watching you on the phone or the tablet, or there's always a story. And so I always prepare the parents that it's okay. They're going to tell me their stories, and they are trying to make this connection make sense. They are trying to make it make sense that I keep saying their name, that I'm answering their questions, that I'm calling them to speak. They're trying to make that connection. Just with that alone takes time. But after the first week, after the first day or two, they're usually over it. I'm telling you, by the second week, they're just like, oh, hi, Miss Monica. Okay. What are you doing?
Okay, what are we going to do today? But I was thinking that.
Yeah, the fandom, gone. You're literally just another adult in their life. Like, we have to learn. Do I have to do that?
Do we have to do that today?
Yeah, it's literally, you're just another adult.
I was thinking that. I was like, that would blow my mind. If I had a YouTube star as a teacher, I would be so excited every day.
And they are. And I think why it goes away so quick is because I still work with 3 and 4-year-olds. So it is so quick. Like they're excited. They're like, oh my gosh, make the connection. And then they're over it in a couple of days. They're literally over it. And
then they're like, okay, is it snack time yet?
Yeah. And that is normal for that age. It makes total sense why they're over it so quickly.
I think that is so cute. I think that's so cute. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and I'm super curious to see what your answer is. What do you think is the biggest modern mom problem today?
Ooh, well, what is the biggest modern mom problem today? That's a good question. I have to think about that one. Now, no, it is. It is. Now, I'm going to come from the perspective maybe of a teacher and making connections, but I believe just trying to figure out the healthy balance of screen time and real time, real world versus technology. Because there are so many conversations surrounding this, and everyone has an opinion. And we can often find ourselves just listening to all of the chatter around, feeling guilty for giving too much of this or too much of that. Oh, should I have gotten my child a phone at 10? Should I have waited till 13? Oh, should I let them use the tablet for 2 hours a day? Or should there no tablets until they're like 8? There's so many opinions. And yes, from researchers, science opinions, to other parents, educators. So I just say, I think that could be one of the biggest, because technology is moving at a rapid pace, and the children are right there with it. They're like, yes, give me more, give me more, give me more. Right. And the parents, the educators, we're just all like, wait, slow down. How do we even balance it all? How do we even understand what's happening and make it all make sense? Yeah, there really is no time to make it make sense. You make it work for your family. What works in the moment, what works in the month, whatever, right? And so I consider that to be one of the top modern mom problems.
I agree, 10,000%. Ms. Monica, I think you are so amazing. Tell everyone where we could watch your show.
Oh, thank you so much. And right now you can watch it on YouTube. If you just go ahead and type in Ms. Monica or Monica J. Sutton. That's my full name, right? The kids don't call me that though. And you can also watch my show now on Cadoodle TV as well. We're excited to be there. Only 2 weeks old, yes. So very excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so exciting. Love, love, love it. Everyone, go watch the show, put it on for the children, and you guys are going to just instill a love of learning and a love of reading. Ms. Monica, I think you're amazing. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you could head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.